Okay. So I'd like to call the meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Starting with roll call. Has the roll been noted?
Yes, it has. Excused members are DePula, Davis, and then I got word from member Fontaine that he'll be running late possibly. Yeah, all others present.
Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Any discussion or changes needed? No? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So minutes are approved. Next, any public appearances?
Nobody registered, nobody in the room.
Okay. All right, then we have no unfinished business. So moving on to new business. Looks like Chief Cheney.
Yep, thank you. I'm gonna share my screen here. I have a quick 3-slide PowerPoint presentation with some help by artificial intelligence. So just give me a second here. I love the new PowerPoint feature, AI. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right. So I just wanted to give the committee an update on our traffic. And well, see, it didn't help out with the moving the D. Traffic dashboard, I didn't figure that out. But I wanted to make sure the committee was aware of some of the ongoing efforts and some of the new things we're trying this year. I talked about it a little bit last year in terms of our traffic initiatives and our enforcement efforts. This has come up and I'm perfectly happy to talk about the traffic dashboard. It's a useful tool that we use in-house regularly, daily. I look at our traffic dashboard, but it's also available to the public for those of you who have returning members. It's on our website, so that's what I posted. This is the front page of our website, and the link is highlighted in a red box here. So it's called Traffic Dashboard. It's at the point now where you just Google Monona Police Traffic Dashboard. You only have to go to the website and it'll send you directly to that link. And I'll click on that now so you can see it. It'll work. It's a little slow, but not the dashboard, but sharing screen here looks to be a little slow. So it may not show up. Oh, technology. Well, give me a second here. Share the right screen. Okay, so this is the traffic dashboard available to all of the public. What you're seeing now is our statistics from last year. The important thing to know is that when you toggle through, it's an interactive dashboard. When you toggle through, you have to literally scroll in and scroll out. If you don't zoom in or zoom out, or I'm sorry, if you don't zoom out, you're not going to get the whole picture of all of our activity. Our traffic initiative. So if you, this is going to be it. I don't have a mouse attached to this, so this is going to be, here we go. If you zoom in, it's all the data that's reflected on the side and the tabs below is only going to reflect what's in the picture, right? So if I, zoom in here, it's only going to reflect what's captured in the picture. As you can see, these numbers on the right went down. So that's something I got a question on from a resident. So I just wanted to make sure we walked you through that. There are instructions here at the bottom. If you click on that tab, it'll walk you through some instructions, but if you look at some of our stats, 2024, for a community our size, we are quite up there in terms of the level of crashes we go to, the citations we've issued, on the number of traffic stops we've made. If you're wondering what some of these dots are outside of the city of Monona, A lot of these have to do with two things. Number one, follow-up from cases that we're currently investigating. So such as, hey, there's a hit and run crash and then we stop the vehicle or we spot the vehicle elsewhere in Madison. But it originated in Monona. It's our investigation. So that there's that factor, or a domestic violence incident that happened on the Beltline where it happened in our community, but the stop occurred elsewhere, right? So that's where some of these dots are plotting. They're also attributed to some of the countywide initiatives that we do, right? Which I think all of you are familiar with those that happen just about quarterly these days. It was monthly for a period of time, but the county has done such a good enough job so far in addressing some of the stolen autos and other countywide issues that the county has changed the frequency as to how many times they do that. But we're going about once every 3 months in which we do countywide initiatives.
Is this a reading for a quarter then?
So that's a good question. So the toggle to switch it from current to last year is up here. So this is just looking at all of last year. Certainly not a quarter, only because if you think about it, we have our patrol staffing level is like 2 officers per shift. So every now and then we have some swing shift availability, so we'll have 3 officers per shift. But that's more often than not, such as right now as we're speaking, there's 2 officers that are working. If you want to go to more current, this year, for example, this will give you everything from Jan 1 on, once it switches over. And so you see the data is going to change here, right? It'll also give you last 14 days, 28 days, 60 days, and 90 days, right? And if you go to the bottom here, so this is the map feature. If you go to the bottom here, it'll toggle on to more data as it relates to the crashes that we've responded to, the frequency, the highest, most significant event that we deal with, motor vehicle and transport versus somebody hitting a parked car, for example. There's a citation chart here that breaks down sort of the time of day, and this varies in our line of work, but typically we see Monday through Fridays are higher than the weekends, obviously because of the commuter traffic, right? In terms of the citations that we're seeing. And then this looks at more in-depth look as to the day of the week and some of the calls for service that we have as it relates to traffic. So directed patrol is when, and again, I just toggled this to this year. So this is today, this year, and it's only on what the map is zoomed in on. If I zoomed out entirely, these numbers would change. They grow, right? But directed patrol is when officers assign themselves to sit at a problem intersection or conduct traffic enforcement in a certain area. Again, this only reflects what the map has shown to date this year. So it'll take you a little bit to sort of, understand how to use this, but it's designed to be hopefully user friendly so that the public can simply toggle through and see the types of calls that traffic related calls we're going to. I'll also say this is a cool feature if it'll work for me. Laptop's a little slow today. If you actually click on one of these dots, and again, the laptop's working a little slow for me today. It'll break down additional features of that incident. So I clicked on one that looked like it was somewhere by us here at City Hall. It was a traffic stop in which resulted in a traffic warning. It gives the state statute number and a description. So this was for non-registration of an automobile, that an officer initiated this traffic stop versus reactive or being called to it. And it gives you all the demographic and geographical information about where this occurred, the type of vehicle. It gives you a lot of information other than the personally identifying information of the person and or the vehicle itself. It's not going to tell you that it's registered to Connie Miley, but it'll give you any other information.
So the officers are responsible for uploading the data at the end of their shift? Or
No.
It's automatic when they do the stop?
Correct. So the CAD data, so the community automated dispatch that is through the county, the county system. So we talk to the county and the county talks to our record management system or vice versa. Our records management system, this is the beauty of being a part of our consortium. We share technology and a records management system. It's called an RMS. with 4 other municipalities, Fitchburg, Sun Prairie, Verona, and Middleton. So the 5 of us are in an intergovernmental agency. We meet monthly. The council elects a representative. Right now, it's Assistant Chief Sarah Duman to represent Monona. And each community has their law enforcement representative. It could be anybody, but it's typically the chief of police or assistant chief. We talk about our records management system, any improvements that need to be made. We talk about things such as the recent technology that we invested in, us 5 communities invested in together, that is an automated license plate reader technology. We have 2 cameras in Monona right now. We're working on a 3rd. What that allows us to do is it's stationary. It's illegal for you to use cameras in the state of Wisconsin for speed enforcement or anything like that. It's literally in the statute. Can't do it. So I just want to emphasize that they're not speed cameras. But what they do is that they say, for example, we have a violent domestic violence suspect that we have a vehicle information on, we have a plate, we have a description. We can enter that in the system, and we've actually used this for a stalking complaint, a pretty significant stalking complaint in Monona, in which a suspect was stalking repeatedly a dating partner. Okay, after that dating relationship had ended, had repeatedly stalked, was out on bail for stalking, was from a different state, had come into Monona to stalk our victim. Okay, we put that person's plate information after they got out of jail into our system. And what will happen is that each officer has an application on their phones that they check out that talks to the system. And anytime the cameras pick up that plate, it'll alert the officer. And so we've actually caught her in the act, I'll say it's her, we caught her in the act of reoffending because she was given bail conditions not to be in Monona, where our victim resides. So we caught her in the act, okay? So anyways, the consortium, and what I said was the beauty about the consortium is that it gives us the ability to have this, what you're looking at. We share, the 5 agencies share a analyst, a data analyst. The data analyst was able to put this together for me so that we can have a public facing dashboard. So that not only is it beneficial for me as chief to figure out where our problems are, where we need to focus our efforts, but it's also something that can be made available to the public, which it is for us. I'm not sure if the other municipalities quite have this up and running for their communities quite yet, but it's there, it's out there, it's available. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of information on here that folks can look into. The reason I bring this up, particularly for council, for Alder Kugel and her colleagues, and you all, we get a lot of questions as to why we spend a lot of our time in the Beltline, why we spend a lot of our time on 51, our small sliver 51. It's because we are responsible for reducing harm and crashes along anywhere in our jurisdiction, but the Beltline, we have a stretch of the Beltline, we have a stretch of 51 that's in our jurisdiction. If you can see where all the stars are on this map, and again, this is only this year. If I toggle next, last year, which I'll just do that for clear demonstration. Every star you see is a crash. You can see, and then the hotspot areas are highlighted here. These are hotspot areas. These areas here are also identified areas by the Dane County Traffic Commission for the entire county of Dane, in which one of 5 areas in which they identified as problem areas in terms of injuries and crashes. As you can see here, this part of the Beltline is one of the straightest stretches of the entire Beltline. It's called a Beltline because it wraps around, right? And we have one of the straightest sections of the Beltline. We have crashes as it relates to the Stoughton Road, the Monona Drive intersection and the Stoughton Road intersection because of how much traffic merges off onto those roadways, but also the volume of traffic at rush hour. And it's challenging, and I've said this before, we do enforcement. We just did an aerial enforcement with the State Patrol. We teamed up with them and Dane County and Madison. And there was a plane in the air and the plane tracks your speed and then they radio it down. But the officers doing that were sitting on a shoulder because that's where, like an on-ramp, so not even on the highway technically, on the highway stretch, but we were on the on-ramp, having no visual of the car coming. Because there's nowhere safe for police officers to sit. Right, and that's some of the design flaws, I would say, with the flex lane, right? And I think I brought that up here before. What would happen is that the plane would go overhead at track speed, they'd radio it down saying, this vehicle is traveling this speed, please start moving and I'll let you know when you're behind it. And so the pilot and the co-pilot keep track and they say, yep, you're behind it, that's the one going 92 miles an hour in a 55. And then you'd pull it over, you write the ticket based on the probable cause that the pilot, who's a trooper, gives you, and then that's it, you're done. If we had an airplane every day, we wouldn't have some of the issues that we're seeing on the Beltline. We don't have that asset. This is the second or third time in my time here as chief in which we've had a plane assisting us doing enforcement. But I point out these stars is because as much as we try to address reducing crashes along the Beltline, it's very, very difficult for number one, an agency our size to really address the volume of traffic that's out there. But number two, even if we wanted to, there's no place for us to sit and do it safely. So we run into some challenges. We're creative, you know, sometimes we get an undercover car and we pace people and things like that, but that's when we have the staffing available to do those sort of operations. And you need, in my opinion, you need to do it consistently to really make a dent and an impact, where people driving through see that City of Monona sign and slow down, right? That's ultimately what I want to get to. Not people driving in Monona in fear that, you know, they are going to get pulled over, but no, they should probably keep it within this range. You know what I mean? Versus going 85, 90, 102 on the Beltline. But anyways.
I got on the Beltline Monday morning at 9:30. And I thought, is this still rush hour? Or is this, you know, like Memorial Day or something? It was bumper to bumper in every lane. 55 was slow.
Rush hour is more like rush quarter in the morning and the afternoon. It's hours worth.
Isn't that amazing?
Something new that we're trying this year are the designated traffic enforcement zones, DEZs, designated enforcement zones. And I sort of highlighted a sample of our current designated enforcement zone. This is what goes out to the officers. The officers all have an understanding of what these areas are, what this box means. They know about the traffic dashboard. They access the traffic dashboard themselves. This is an example of what we're currently working right now. What I'll say though is that we're not neglecting the rest of the city. We're still doing traffic enforcement all throughout the city, but this allows us to do sort of focus enforcement, a little bit more directed patrols in this area to combat some of the complaints we're getting on Femright Drive, for example, the issues that we're seeing on Monona Drive, and of course, Broadway, right? And so, and 51. So the officers are logging more hours than what they would normally do because we have a focused effort in these areas. And then we're doing this because of some of the feedback we're getting from residents saying, hey, we don't see you in our residential areas enough. We understand you have the Beltline, we understand you have 51, we understand you have Broadway. We're really not seeing you in the residentials. We'd love to see you out there. I'm very data driven. I think you want your police chief to be data driven, but I'm also understanding that you all pay plenty of money for your police department, which we understand and respect. We get that visibility is important, and so we're doing this in an effort to do two things. Number one, to address any valid concern that's out there, but also to be a visible deterrent, to be a presence so that all of you as residents can see we're out there and we're attentive and we're listening to some of the complaints that we're receiving. What's in the works right now, I have to talk to our mayor. One of the things I asked for in the referendum, I think you all know this when we talked about referendum, was a traffic officer, it's a standalone traffic officer. I have to talk to our new mayor, Mayor Moore, about this too. It might be something that we're looking to explore within our current staffing levels. I don't think that that's sustainable, however, but it's something that I'm willing to give a shot and say, hey, can we try a dedicated officer for a couple months or a month when we're fully staffed? And we'll talk about staffing here in a second, to see what the impacts of that one officer was as a dedicated traffic enforcement officer and see if we can make a dent. So any questions on that? That's the traffic update.
Early on, you mentioned stolen cars. It's not necessarily traffic, but it can lead to traffic. Is that that doesn't seem to be a big issue now? Is that right? Or is things kind of tailed off or what?
Yeah, things have, well, of course you say that now, Mark.
I know.
Jump back out, but,
That's how you're not an officer anymore.
Yeah,
you
I
say
know.
that,
It's
so.
like my workload.
So, humility is important, so I'm trying to be humble here and saying that like. There weren't too many agencies that were addressing stolen cars.
Mhm.
I'll just be perfectly candid, and we were one of them, right? And sooner or later, the county, and I give them all the credit, they saw this as a countywide issue. They saw that people were stealing cars in Madison, for example, but committing crimes with the cars in some of these townships and these rural areas and yada, yada, yada. Cause then how are you gonna track them down, right? It's a stolen car, so you're gonna knock at the door of the registered owner whose car was stolen. So it was a perfect means for people to commit crimes, to steal cars. And we were starting to see these pages and pages of intelligence. Mark, you can probably recall what those are. Pages and pages of intelligence, which each page would be a dozen or so stolen cars in our county, right? We're down to about one page. For a minute there, we were about down to like 6 cars in the whole county, right? And that diminished and those numbers became lower when we started doing these stolen auto initiatives and we were starting to catch perpetrators and we were starting to team up with our media partners to advertise and talk about what we're doing. And then you got chiefs like me that are out there saying, just don't do it, especially in Monona, don't do it. We haven't had a stolen auto in our community in some time. And this whole concept started, if you recall, from an incident in which one of your fellow residents was burglarized in their home while they were there. And the person stole the car after finding the keys in their home while they were there and stole their car out of their driveway. Officers spotted the car, but at the time we didn't have our pursuit policy and couldn't pursue that vehicle. Even though the conditions were absolutely perfect, we couldn't pursue that vehicle because it wasn't, at the time, it was a violent felony that restricted when we were to pursue somebody. So I sat in that person's home, as you can understand, they were quite upset. Not only were they violated, right? It's such a huge invasion of privacy that's a struggle to get back if any of you have ever been victims of theft or a burglary. But that somebody was in their home, somebody took their car, which to all of us is our precious commodities, right? And then to know that we spotted that individual, but our policy limited us to try to do anything about it within reason. And like I said, the conditions were, so I use that story to help change things here. And as those of you who are involved in changing our pursuit policy are aware of that story, but there are several others that are like that. Because we are able to safely pursue vehicles now, I think word's gotten out, which is a good thing. It's not, there's nothing macho about this, but there's a good thing about, please, please, please don't do it, period. But think twice about doing it here in Monona because we will take safe efforts to try to make sure that we hold you accountable. So anyways, the answer to your story is, Mark, we're seeing a decrease. I think it's in part of the fact that the countywide initiatives were out there, the media, there's a lot of press on it. I, as you know, do a lot of press releases on our efforts. But we are now not the only agency that has changed their pursuit policy. I'd say we're one of the leaders in that, thanks to all of you. But you have several others, McFarland, Fitchburg, others that have since changed their policies. And so they're taking more effort to hold people accountable who are committing these acts. And so I think that all of the above has helped in the decrease in some of these stolen autos that we're seeing.
Good to hear.
And that's it, unless there are any other questions.
All right, staffing update. Next.
I do not have a slide deck prepared. I feel very underprepared for this.
Next meeting.
Next meeting, which I will talk about that in the department update, but staffing wise, we are full, volunteer wise. We have our 5 new POP members starting up. They have their first orientation with me on Saturday. They've actually been very active even before that. They've been coming to drill every week and putting up with all of us and having a good time. So with these 5, we're full. Just due to space limitations, we have no bunk space for further volunteers. So, which is a good problem to have in the county nowadays. From the full-time side, our provisional fire medic that's been in class since September passed all of his classes. Passed his national registry for paramedic licensure yesterday. So we are fully staffed with a asterisk. He's not able to run as a 2-person crew for a little while yet, so we'll be working through orientation with him and getting him up to speed at the medic level. I would say probably by the end of May, he'll be ready to go and get credentialed by our medical director. And at that point, we'll actually be fully staffed, which is a really nice feeling to have. So it's both of our 2 new full-timers that started in March are doing very well. They've both been credentialed by our medical director and are pulling call on their own. So we're actually in a pretty good spot right now.
And if there's no questions for the chief, I'll go, Alder, if that's good, okay. In terms of the PD, we do have a vacancy right now. So our Lieutenant Weigel resigned from the PD. We wish him well. And then that created other vacancies down the chain, including the lieutenant position. And so Lieutenant Knockreiner was promoted, Adam Knockreiner, formerly sergeant, been here for many years, was our first canine handler, if you all recall, with canine Maya, who's entirely different than canine Jocko. So that created a vacancy for lieutenant. He was promoted to that position. There was a police and fire commission meeting on the 19th of May that will formally sort of anoint him, approve him for that position. Sergeant Ken Ginther was previously an officer. If you recall, I bragged about him a couple times. He was Dane County Officer of the Year. He received Officer of the Year for the Monona Police Department. Here comes Joe Fontaine, speaking of commissioners. He's logging in. He was promoted as sergeant, so he's our newest supervisor. Ken, just give you a little bit of background. Ken was in the Wisconsin Army National Guard, was deployed overseas as a captain in the United States Army, and spent most of his time managing the training of our Middle Eastern colleagues in terms of checkpoints. So as you can imagine, pretty courageous job that he had, but he came to us with leadership skills that he was able to build upon here at the PD, and I have no doubt he'll be an excellent supervisor. And then, so if you look at the domino effect, that leaves an officer vacancy. So we're short an officer right now. We've been recruiting through the sort of lateral officer channels. So WileyNet, which is run by DOJ. I've yet to put anything out on the Facebook page. But despite not doing that yet and advertising on social media, we've already gotten so far in 3 days of posting 5 applicants that are lateral applicants, meaning that they're already police officers in other communities. Our last hire was a police officer in Sun Prairie who came highly recommended. The one before that was a police officer from the city of Madison who came with his own accolades too. So although I don't like stealing from our suburban partners, it's not above me necessarily to grab onto good talent and welcome them here to the Monona Police Department if that works for our commissioners. So, I think you all know I can't really elaborate on personnel matters that's sort of protected But what I will say is that this department is doing well. Morale is very high. And that's of course me saying it, but I think if you bring any one of our officers in here, they might tell you the same. I'm pretty confident that they'll tell you the same. And they're really looking forward to new leadership and new opportunities that lie ahead. So in terms of staffing right now and why I said we weren't ready to start that trial traffic officer position, we have one officer on family leave after delivering a wonderful, healthy baby girl. And we have two other officers who either their partners have had a kid or they are expecting. So I don't know when we're actually going to be able to be 100% fully staffed, but sometime in the not so distant future, I hope, and we will activate that trial position, the traffic officer position. So any questions for me?
The impact of our salaries,
Yes.
has that made a difference?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. We are short-staffed on our dispatch side. We have a dispatcher, I think I mentioned this before, that resigned for family issues, right? Loved it here, wanted to stay, but it was better for that individual to go also for family, for their family needs. And we, in terms of your question as to salaries and the salary increases, which the majority of this community voted for an operating referendum increase. And I know that hit your pocketbook, so we appreciate that. What it's done for you, I think, is improve public safety because we're now casting a much wider net in terms of quality folks who would have been pulled in another direction. And people aren't necessarily motivated by money, but as you all know, it costs money to live here in Dane County or even close to Dane County. And they all have families that they're trying to raise and they have income, some of them single incomes, right? That they have to pay for their livelihood. Our dispatcher position that we announced with the new salary increase, we had to cut off the applications. We had 50 applications. We normally get about 4 or 5, right? So we had to sort of cut it off and look at the pool we had. And I'm happy to announce that we actually are hiring, have offered the job conditionally. There's a couple steps that this person has to go through to a former Madison police officer who is going to do quite well here. He actually worked as a neighborhood officer for Langdon Street sometime. So he's going to do incredibly well here. He is not wanting to get back into the sworn side of the aisle, right? And is ready to contribute again here in Dane County. He moved out of state and he's coming back. And we're the only place he's applied for. So we will be fully staffed once we hire that person and train them up. It takes a couple of months to get them really geared up and going to be comfortable to be solo in the chair. In terms of the police officer, the sworn side, that too has helped us. We hired our newest officer that we permanently borrowed from the city of Sun Prairie, wonderful talent. And in part, that was due to the salary increase. And what the union has and the city have agreed upon as to the next 2 years of pay increases. We are going to be sitting pretty comfortably in my mind in terms of how we compensate our staff and how competitive we can be should we reach another vacancy. Your chief isn't going to have any problems. Not that I did necessarily before, but it was, when somebody's looking at potentially a pay cut to go someplace where they have no guarantee if it's going to work out, they're an at-will employee for 1.5 years, right? So tomorrow I can say, see you later, that sort of thing. You're taking on a big risk. When you provide equal or similar pay to what they were being paid before, and in many cases, sometimes a little bit more, not a lot more, but still a little bit more, that sometimes is enough bait on the hook to get somebody. I will say, as I mentioned before, we have pretty good morale here at the police department. We get along well with our basement friends downstairs. We have a strong working relationship in terms of training together, our interactions. It's a comfortable space here at the police and fire departments. We're supported by all of you. That matters too. That was actually one of the things that one of our newest officers said. was a real selling factor, was the community support and the feeling of community support. And they weren't really getting that in their community, their previous employer. So all of those factors go into making sure that we have the highest caliber and quality public safety personnel here that your wonderful taxpayer paying dollars can buy. Yeah, long-winded answer to your question, Connie, but thanks for
It's a
asking.
good thing.
Any other questions on staffing? All right, update on the ambulance.
I feel like I'm being very brief tonight, but, our new ambulance, is up getting its graphics done. Thanks to the council's support, 2.5 years ago, starting this process with the delays in vehicles. Was out last week, did a final inspection on it, got moved up to Minnesota, some final upfitting and the graphics. Should be here in the city first week of May. And it has to go in to get all the electronic stuff added, the radios and our dispatch tab, all the stuff that makes it work. So we're looking at probably mid-June, by the time we get it fully outfitted and ready to go, but it is one step closer. It's, as I say, it's next door in Minnesota right now. It'll be down here next Friday. And then we'll start working on getting it outfitted. So thank you, to the community, because you guys have supported us very well. And to the council. It's been a difficult road with vehicle procurement over the last few years, so it's much appreciated. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right, no questions on the ambulance, then we can move on to reports. Start with fire.
All right, well, I'll just keep talking. That way I don't feel like I'm a conversation killer. I'm gonna touch on one thing that my esteemed colleague talks about with his traffic dashboard. We don't have a traffic dashboard, nor do we have a wonderful data analyst like Mipsis has, which the individual is a great guy.
And I'm an owner resident.
Yeah. What we do have finally is technology to be able to provide something very similar for call data, where we're at, types of calls that we go on that should be going live on the website. The software behind it was supposed to go live Monday on our server. There was a couple of delays, so it might be the end of this week, but once I have that, we'll have a real-time dashboard that people can. Now, unfortunately, with EMS calls, I can't give quite the amount of data that Chief Cheney can if you click on it, so it's much more generic data, but it can tell you the type of call that we went on and the general area we're in. To give you an idea, when I say we're busy, it gives you a general idea that we actually are busy and not just me saying it. We actually have the data to provide to the community to show how busy we are. So that should be going live hopefully at the end of this week. If not, it'll be early next week on our website. I'll send something out to the committee here and to the alders to, again, kind of piggyback on what Chief Cheney's had for the last couple of years, because that is an impressive dashboard. It's really nice to see how much effort the officers put in out on the streets. And with that, as of yesterday, running our numbers, we're running about 16% over on call volume from last year. We've been very busy in the first quarter. Was talking earlier this evening that we're on call number 5 today. We're running anywhere between 5 and 7 calls a day, every day of the week, which our full staffing does help with. So the call dashboard that I'll put up there will hopefully show that it's not just me saying we're busy and yep, we're so many calls, but here's the calls. Right now, if you run our numbers, there's 6 properties that account for 30% of our EMS calls in the city. 6 addresses. Most everybody at the table can probably figure out what those addresses are. It's 111 and 211 Owen Road. It's 101 and 201 Frostwoods. That particular address we've been out twice at today. It's 250 Femright and it's 300 Femright. Walmart is a very close 7th. But those 6 addresses account for 30% of our call volume on the EMS side. And I say that because 353 Owen Road is opening back up. If you look at the numbers, apartments, the folks that rent those apartments, it's very similar to 250 Femright. The number of apartments is within two. Same type of folks that we frequently see. 250 Femright accounts for 7% of our call volume. So on top of what we've already had this year, we can expect another 7% increase in EMS call volume just from that one apartment building opening back up again. That doesn't allow or doesn't add in the future development coming and the stuff that's already being built. Chief Cheney mentioned the referendum. It was in discussions with the council. And I'm just being very early here because again, it's 2025. We're going to need more staff. Hands down, we are going to need to add staff. Right now, our ambulance is the busiest ambulance in Dane County per capita. It's not even close. And that includes Madison. If you go per capita, we are by far the busiest ambulance in the county. So last year, our ambulance ran just under 1,700 calls between fire and EMS because our folks do both. So if you look at Madison Fire, their folks run EMS calls. They respond to structure fire calls, but they don't respond to fire alarm calls. They don't respond to elevator calls. They're EMS. They're EMS folks that are also firefighters. Our folks are both, and they respond to everything because that's the staffing that we have. I know I have 2 firefighter medics in-house. They go on fire alarm calls. They go on elevator rescues. They go on check welfare calls that may not have a medical component. They respond to everything. The average Madison rig, they run anywhere between 4,000 and 4,500 calls a year. But again, when you go per capita, we're a small city, 9,000 people. We're pulling 1,700 calls a year on a single ambulance. We are absolutely in the next few years going to have to add staff. There's just no way around it. We're missing anywhere from 10 to 15% of our EMS calls as it stands. And as those call numbers go up, we're going to be missing more, which means now we're drawing Madison in more and more. So far, my cohorts at Madison have been very understanding. They get it. They're also seeing a 6% increase in call volume this year. They are not adding any additional ambulances. So when it comes to what they need to do, they're going to be like, hey guys, you're pulling our stuff way too many times. So Medic 14 was at the Dairy Drive location. They got moved 8 months ago. I will share that as of yesterday, that is a permanent move. So that nice close ambulance we had supporting us is now no longer there, and it will not be coming back. So they are going to be renaming it to Medic 11 and putting it up at Station 11. So we do get mutual aid from Station 6 on Park Street and Station 5 on Cottage Grove Road and McFarland. It adds minutes is what it adds. And it also means we're responding out of the city more frequently because Medic 14 took a lot of those McFarland calls and Stoughton calls, intercept calls. They're no longer there. So we're now the closest available ALS unit. So all of that combined is, with the numbers I'm seeing right now, we're going to be close to 2,000 calls this year. And we were at 1,700 last year. So just making sure everybody's aware, I will be asking for more staff in the next few years. Unfortunately, it's tied to other realities that are outside of my control, beyond budget. It is tied to the public safety building discussion as well. We need more staff, but we have no place to put them. But we have no room that we can even build in housing a 4th person without cutting some of our volunteers, which we don't want to do. So long-term discussion, but I want to make sure that's out there. On a positive note, our budget's looking good. So revenues are up where they should be. We've been positive every month this quarter above what we needed, above what our budget amounts are. So overall, the budget is looking great. And as the chief mentioned, morale's pretty high. Our 2 new full-time staff have fit in very well. They were looking for a family department and we're giving that to them. So Everybody downstairs is pretty happy. They're busy, but they're happy. So I am happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna ask when, like a City of Madison responds to a Monona call, do they charge back the city for that? Or is it just kind of like, we'll help each other out?
We help each other out, because we respond into Madison as well, not nearly in the numbers. Where the city loses, is we lose the revenue off of that call, to be crass about it.
Yeah,
Especially if we have staff in-house. Again, we've had, some difficulties in utilizing our second ambulance over the last year, that were outside of the department's control. But, if mutual aid comes in, we're still responding on the fire side. We just lose the ability to bill for that patient. But no, Madison does not charge, and neither do we.
thank you.
What I was gonna say, Connie, is I don't recall that kind of call volume when we were on the EMS. It was volunteer service. There would be times where a shift or shifts would have no calls. People would come stay in the station and sleep in the bunk room, wake up at the end of the shift and go home. And now it's like,
Yeah, slow shift now is 2 or 3 calls on a shift. On a
so is that
24 hour.
because, in part because population is aging?
I think we've always had an aged population. To be fair, I don't know what the answer is. It boggles my medical director's mind. We have call volumes 2 or 3 times what we should have for a city our size. A good example, Cottage Grove is a good example. They're a little bit bigger than we are. Last year, I think they had 700 EMS calls. So we're just, we have all the Madison call volume without the, infrastructure.
Facilities.
Yeah.
They don't have a Tellurian, they don't have
Yeah.
some of the addresses that you mentioned in Cottage Grove.
What are the transports? Versus,
Versus no transports.
yeah,
We run about a 85% transport rate.
okay. Has that changed over time?
We transport more frequently now than we did.
Okay.
And a lot of that is due to better medical direction, and a better scope of practice for our medics. And again, not to always have money in mind, but unfortunately with the older population, that's the only way Medicare will pay. You have to be transported. If you're not transported, Medicare will not cover the ambulance bill. Now, there is a bill that comes whether you're transported or not, but if you're not transported, Medicare or Medicaid will not pay.
Do we make them aware of that at the time?
If they ask, yes.
Okay.
And if not, even after the fact, I receive calls on a regular basis. And I say it's unfortunate. Most folks that have utilized the ambulance corps know that as well.
Okay.
That they know that you've got to transport me for Medicare to cover it. I've got to go to the hospital. And that it's unfortunate part of healthcare, which would require a change at the federal level.
Make a difference.
Any other questions? No, all right, Chief Cheney?
Any day now, we'll be getting the all-electric Chevy Blazer that this committee, all of you took part in. I was told that we should expect that to be delivered here this week or next. We ordered it in November, that's okay. Our F-150 rides wonderfully. We haven't been able to put it in full gear yet, even though we've had it for several months. Because of some issues we're having with the Panasonic laptop that Panasonic is struggling to assist us with, or I will say, we don't think is doing a good enough job assisting us with. We've shipped it to them, they've shipped it back. It's been an absolute nightmare for our assistant chief. So we've ordered another one, and hopefully that will work out well for us, and we'll put that in the truck so that we actually have that truck in the field. We are working, as Jerry mentioned, some of the new developments. There are a lot happening, and we will start to see our population increase quite sharply here soon with some of these rather large scale apartment buildings that are in the works. What I will say is that staff sort of has reorganized, and our city planner is doing and our city administrator are doing a fabulous job of leading, sort of making sure that all the boxes are checked, those who need to weigh in on projects and developments have the opportunity to do so. We just had a meeting this morning, which Jerry and I and other staff were caught up to speed on some of the developments. I think that'll help us better prepare to respond, because we will have to respond to some of these large apartments. The police departments and fire does too, Jerry. I know you do. We start conversations with the property management like before they open the doors to their facilities, so that we start those relationships. That's so very important. I'll speak in terms of public safety, having that relationship, knowing sort of how we do our job, how it might be differently than our counterparts at Madison, for example, how we go about requesting video. Yes, you can call us directly. You will talk to a human being. Yes, you can call and ask or talk to the chief. All of those things, these larger developments that are used to working in places like Madison may not be used to. And so Jerry and I are ambassadors to the city, and so we want to make sure that we provide good quality service for them as well. But that helps us all out in the long run, so we can nip issues in the bud before they become larger issues. All right, so end this on a good note. Your police department is receiving a lot of commendations, awards, and accolades, and I'd be a horrible chief if I didn't mention some of the work that your dispatchers and your police officers are doing. Earlier in the year, we had our annual awards at Fat Jack, such as our time to get together and give Attagirls, Attaboys to some of the great hard work and personal sacrifices that folks have made. I mean, as you know, there were some significant calls last year. The Abundant Life School, the fatal pursuit crash, the armed standoff situations. That is a stressor beyond stressor for your officers and your dispatchers. We, I think, have done a really good job and continue to do so of taking care of our staff and making sure they feel supported and that they can rely on one another. Jerry and I pretty much gave free rein in terms of peer support, and whatever you need, you got, as long as it's in our authority. And if we don't have the money for it, we're reaching out to the council or we're reaching out to the mayor. But so far, I think that we have our staff is in good shape despite some of the horrific calls that they've had to experience. But we recognize them too. That's part of the healing process is recognizing them for some of the work that they're doing out there. So we had an in-house one. It's very informal. It's Fat Jacks. They closed down the place for us, and officers bring their family and the little kids, and watching these little kids grow up it's just, and I've only been here for 4 years, right? And watching these little kids grow up, and you're having full adult conversations with like somebody who couldn't even say a word 4 years ago, and somebody who doesn't have kids. I think that's just amazing. And so, it for me as chief, it's another reminder. I already cared for our staff, and boy, when I see their kids, I'm caring even harder for them to make sure that they get home every day to their wonderful kids. But so we gave our own kudos, which is fun, but I think more, humbling and really, really awesome, humbling in a good way, is outside agency awards that your officers and dispatchers and your department is getting. So the Dane County Sheriff's let us know a few weeks ago that one of the officers, Officer Moshik, is getting an award from the Dane County Sheriff's Office on a call that he assisted the county on. The WPPA, which is the Wisconsin Professional Police Officers Association, is statewide, one of the statewide unions. It's the largest police union in the state. They have an annual conference and banquet. I received word a couple weeks ago that Another officer is getting an award at the annual banquet for the police, the state police union, and your police department. The Monona Police Department is getting the teammate agency of the year. I forget the exact term.
Yay.
But your police department is getting recognized by the state union, which is, you know, I'll just share it. You don't always see that. You don't always see that. So we'll take it, and so I'm gonna go with one of our supervisors. And then I was just informed this week that 2 of your officers are being recognized for a call that it was actually an armed standoff call that they had on Kings Row, if you remember that one, where the gentleman had shot a firearm into his apartment building, was waving it around when officers arrived outside of his home, right? And so there was this sort of armed negotiated standoff, and the amount of restraint that your officers use, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. The amount of restraint your officers use, appropriate restraint. They know you're going home at the end of your shift, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but they use like spot on perfect amount of restraint, created distance, created a barrier, did everything right to make sure that they saved that life of that gentleman who was waving a gun around and who had just fired a hole into his apartment. Actually, not an apartment, the common stairwell in his apartment building. So those 2 officers I just received word that they're getting an award from the Dane County Police Chiefs, who are recognizing those 2 officers. So lots of kudos, lots of feel-good moments, and I'm sure many more to come based on some of the work that's happening around here. So, and I think that's it. That's all.
All right, any questions? All right, then I think next is Joe.
Yep.
Police and Fire Commission updates.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this was covered. I know I came late, but there will be a police and fire meeting on May 19th, which is our annual meeting to elect officers and determine if the Police and Fire Commission is going to throw me at you as their representative again for next year. So we'll be doing that. We'll get some staffing updates that I'm sure will overlap for that group with what we've heard tonight. That's all I got.
Right. Any questions for Joe? All right. Our next scheduled meeting is May 28th. I think, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
I'll second.
All right, then we are adjourned.
Bravo, good job, Alder.
Thanks all.
Thank you.